tell a very simple story. The long and the short of it is you have let the man slip through your fingers. The situation is very grave, and I really see no reason why I should try to shield you from the consequences of your inefficiency. Repentance and renewal of what the other side call grace, on the scale which you describe as a defeat of the first order. This amounts to a second conversion, and probably on a deeper level than the first. As you ought to have known, the asphyxiating cloud which prevented your attacking the patient on his walk back from the old mill is a well-known phenomenon. It is the enemy's most barbarous weapon, and generally appears to the patient when he's directly present under certain modes not yet fully classified. Some humans are permanently surrounded by this and therefore inaccessible to us. And now for your blunders. On your own showing, you first of all allowed the patient to read a book he really enjoyed. Because he enjoyed it, and not in order to make clever remarks about it to his new friends. In the second place, you allowed him to walk down to the old mill and have tea there. A walk through country he really likes, and taken alone. In other words, you allowed him to have two real, positive pleasures. Were you not so ignorant as to see the danger of this? The characteristic of pains and pleasures is that they are unmistakably real, and gives the man who feels them a touchstone of reality. Thus, if you had been trying to damn your man by the romantic method, by making him a kind of child herald or worther, submerged in self-pity and imaginary distresses, you would try to protect him at all costs from any real pain. Because, of course, 5 minutes' genuine toothache would reveal the romantic sorrows that they were and unmask your whole stratagem. But you are trying to damn your patient by the world, by palming off vanity, bustle, irony, and expensive tedium as pleasures. How can you have failed to see that a real pleasure was the last thing you ought to let him meet? Couldn't you foresee that it would just kill by contrast all the trumpery which you have been so laboriously teaching him to value? And that the sort of pleasure that the book and the walk gave him was the most dangerous of all. And that it would peel off from his sensibility to the kind of crust you had been forming on it, and make him feel that he was coming home, recovering himself? As a preliminary to detach him from the enemy, you wanted to detach him from himself, and you made some progress in doing so. Now all that is undone. Of course I know the enemy wants men to detach from themselves, but in a different way. Remember always that he really likes the little vermin, and sets an absurd value on the distinctness of every one of them. When he talks of losing their selves, he only means abandoning the clamor of self-will. Once they have done that, he really gives them all their personality, and boasts, I'm afraid sincerely, that once they are fully his, they are more themselves as ever. Hence, while he delights in seeing them sacrificing even their innocent wills to his, he hates to see them drift away from their own nature for any other reason. And we should always encourage them to do so. The deepest likings and impulses of any man are the raw material, the starting point with which the enemy has furnished him. You should always try to make the patient abandon. You should always. Line.
To get him away from those is therefore.
To get him away from those is therefore always a point gained. Even in things that differ, it is always desirable to substitute the standards of the world, or convention, or fashion, for a human's own real likings and dislikings. I myself would carry this very far. I would make it a rule to eradicate from my patient any strong personal taste which is not actually a sin, even if it is something quite trivial such as the fondness of county cricket or collecting stamps or drinking coca. Such things, I grant you, have nothing of virtue in them, but there is a sort of innocence and humility and self-forgetfulness about them which I distrust. A man who truly and disinterestedly enjoys anything in the world for its own sake, without caring twopence what others say about it, is by that very fact formed against some of our subtlest modes of attack. You should always try to make the patient abandon the people or food or books he really likes in favor for the best people, the right food, the important books. I have known a human defended from strong temptations and social ambition for a still stronger taste for tripe and onions. It remains to consider how we can revive this disaster. The great thing is to prevent his doing anything. As long as he does not convert it into action, it does not matter how much he thinks about this new repentance. Let the little brute wallow in it. Let him, if it ever bent his way, write a book about it. That is often an excellent way of sterilizing the seed the enemy plants in a human soul. No amount of piety and imagination and affections will be able to harm us if we keep it out of his will. As one of the humans has said, active habits are strengthened by repetition and passive ones weakened. The more often he feels without acting, the less he will ever feel to act. And, in the long run, the less he will be able to feel. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape.